Hello, hello.
Welcome to part 3 of The Good Work, and today's series was on standing strong in the face of opposition. So please, can you define to us what standing strong actually is?
Thank you, Nella, and it's good to have you back again.
Thank you.
Standing strong, it's that funny definition. We've heard it so many times, that courage is not the absence of fear.
Sure.
And as we were discussing, everybody gets that part right. And then we just make up the rest. So courage is not the absence of fear, but...
something.
And then I'm saying it is standing strong in the face of opposition.
Yeah.
So even though there is opposition, we have this idea that if I was courageous, I wouldn't be afraid. Let me tell you, David was scared.
Sure.
When he was standing there in front of Goliath, it's not like he was just like, oh, this is nothing. When that bear was there, when the lion was there, it's not that there was a complete absence of fear, but it's, you know what, despite this fear, I know that my God is for me. I know that this work is greater than me. I know that He will fight for me. And that's the difference. So it's not that we have to be completely without fear. It's that we're still going to stand strong. Even though I'm afraid, I'm still going to stand strong. And that's what we really want to say.
Sure, that is absolutely fascinating. Listen, and I'm also very excited to be back. I was supposed to sing for you, like reunited, and it feels so good. So this is one of my favorite series, I think, in a long time. This is I really relate to it the most. When we talk about anxiety, especially as young people, the idea is we know what the good work should be and what it is because God gives us clear directions. We each have something that God has planted in our hearts, but we struggle to fulfill that because there's a lot of anxiety that comes in. Now, the other part I'll discuss in my third question, but for this question, often this is how we feel. So you know what the ultimate work will be, but then again, you are crippled by the idea and the understanding that there will be opposition. So we know there's going to be opposition when we start that work, but then that thought tends to cripple people so much before we even begin the good work. How can we counter that one? How do we deal with that?
So, Nella, I really believe that we have the wrong expectation about what living the Christian life is. And no matter how many times we say this, we enjoy the good times. So we enjoy it when we don't feel anxious. We enjoy it when things are going our way. We enjoy it where everything just lines up and things are working and it's great. And then we say, but that's how God intends it. When you look at the scriptures, what is the reality?
Sure.
So not just the scriptural reality, but what is the reality within our world?
Yeah.
The reality is it's not going to be like that. And the scriptural reality is that's not what God promises. So in all of the verses that we find so much encouragement from, that God is for us. If He's for us, who can be against us? And we are more than conquerors. That we know all things work together for the good.
My grace is sufficient for you.
In every single one of those, each of those is born out of opposition.
Sure.
Those statements are not made because everything's going smoothly. Those statements that we hold on to are there because it's tough and because it's difficult. So I think our expectation needs to shift of one that says, not that I expect everything to go well and then God is for me, then God is working. And I'm saying God is working, and He's often working the most in the difficult times. So it's during those tough times, that's when we are leaning on the Lord more. And that's the reality. And I think that's what God is most interested in. He's interested in us relying on Him and leaning on Him. And when does that happen the best? It's when we are slightly anxious. There's not once, and I mean this sincerely, there's not once that I ever stand up to speak and I don't feel anxious. And that goes from if I'm standing in front of the little Westring pre-primary, if I'm standing in front of our little grade R's, whether I'm standing in front of the entire congregation or whatever it is, there's that little bit of anxiety that is there. And it's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. And it's about understanding the value and the depth of the opportunity. And I don't like it. I'm not saying I've become used to it, but it's not something that I'm going to want to manufacture, all the time unnecessarily, but it's there. And I really think it's a good thing.
Really, this is literally so lovely because it links in with our third question. You know, there is something called an imposter syndrome, which is something I know for a fact I have. So that's non-negotiable. I'll be your favorite guinea pig. I have an imposter syndrome. It's this thing internally that makes me feel like I'm incompetent or I'm unworthy. So who do I think I am? If I want to stand up in front of your great R's and talk, there's a big question of who do you think you are? You know what I mean? And also sometimes it reminds you of your past. It's a common thing that happens. I think with most people, if you've ever dealt with a big scandal in the past or people perceive you as who you used to be, you feel like you are crippled by that truth such that you're not going to embark on the good work. And I always say the internal battle, the internal opponent, which isn't the Holy Spirit, we have another internal opponent, which is often ourselves, that literally pushes us away from doing the good work. How do we handle that, Warren? Because often it tends to literally kill the spirit and enthusiasm of doing God's work.
Anela, I know that, you know, even from your story, it's not a big scandal that has led to that. With my story as well, it's not that there is a big scandal in the past that causes me to have that little "you're not good enough" type of thing. But sometimes it is, you know, our past that maybe does when we're worried about it, and maybe sometimes that's what fuels people to want to do better. But what I do know is that every single person's internal insecurities are 100% real to them.
Yeah.
And it's not always easily understood.
Thank you for that.
By those on the outside. So even this morning, it's a bit risky. I'm standing and I'm sharing those internal vulnerabilities and insecurities that I feel. But I don't want it to be misunderstood. I'm not sharing that so that I can get affirmation. Because it's the weirdest thing. No matter how much affirmation you get, it doesn't change that. Because it's not an external thing. It's an internal thing. So it's between me and the Lord. And that's what I love about it. As much as what I hate it, I love it. Because that is the thing that drives me to rely on the Lord. And I'm saying, do I want that not to be there? If there is another way for me to rely on the Lord and have to rely on Him, then that's fine, sure. But other than that, I want it to be there. Because it means I'm conscious. Every single time I step out, every single time I'm going to do something, I'm conscious. I cannot do this on my own. Because in my own strength, I am weak. But when I am weak, then I am strong if I am relying on the Lord's strength. And I need to keep letting it shift me to that place. And then we have to deal with it. So I heard some really good advice from Craig Grishel. So he's the guy who puts a lot of this content together that we get to share from Life Church, and we're really grateful for that. And he was facing a struggle for a long time, and after a couple of years of really battling with it and just not seeing the fruits that he was expecting, he says that he felt that the Lord spoke to him, and he said, "Craig, just stop whining. You're sharp. Fix it." And sometimes we just have to get there.
True.
Instead of allowing ourselves to wallow in that, like, oh, woe is me, and I'm so terrible, and I'm not good enough. It's just like, just quit that now and get on with the good work, because God has called you to do something. And I think the biggest thing is that reminder, it's not about you. It's
That's
really
so
not.
true.
We have to do the Lord's work. So let's get our focus there and let's do His work, and we can worry about that another day.
So there are certain things that are just inevitable. It is inevitable that we are going to embark on the good work. And when we do embark on our good work, we're going to encounter opposition. That is inevitable. We're going to encounter opposition externally, and we're going to encounter opposition internally. But in that sense, and in that reality, how important is it for us to know and to trust that God is for us and that He will fight those battles for us?
So this is the part that I battle to put into my human brain.
Okay.
And that is how big this picture is. So when we speak about our lives, our focus is very much on our perspective, our input, our influence, our legacy, our imprint, our whatever. What are we going to do in the time that we are here? And God's picture is just so much bigger than that. So He's able to use your life in your good choices, in your weaknesses, in your bad choices. And He says that all things will work together for the good. That there is nothing that we could ever do that would stop the work of God. Now, how incredible is that?
Yeah.
So literally, you could wake up tomorrow and you could say, do you know what? I'm done. Like, that's it. I'm not going to do anything for God ever again. Like, whatever. You're still not going to stop his work.
That's
like, how
true.
incredible is that? So God's work will continue. And I think that's important for us to be reminded of, that it's a much, much bigger picture. And here's the part that I really love, is when you are doing God's work, he promises to fight for you. And how do we even comprehend that? So I would love for whatever the work is that we do, that it is not by our own effort, it's not by our own intentions, it's not because of our own goals or our own desires. It is because we believe wholeheartedly and sincerely that this is what God has called us to do. And when you know that, you don't worry. Because you don't have to orchestrate, you don't have to try and manipulate, you don't have to try and make sure that things fall into... It's the Lord's work. You do the little bit that he's called you to do, you leave the rest in his hands. And when you see him fight for you, it is the most amazing thing. There is nothing more encouraging or inspiring. When you leave it in his hands, and he just does more than what you could ever expect or imagine. And he says, here we go. This is the good work. This is what I want to do. And you're like, yeah, that's God's work.
Yeah.
That's not my own. And that's what we want to be doing. We want to be doing that good work.